It's witchcraft.
Hey, it's 4:20 a.m. Hi, and welcome to episode 67 of the Stoned Witches Hour. On this podcast, two best friends from way back get together to tell each other the creepiest true paranormal tales they can find from across the USA, all while smoking the stickiest, stoniest, sweetest cannabis they can find. Getting higher than the Black Hills and the Badlands of South Dakota, I'm Layla.
And smoking the dankety dank up in New England, I'm Chelle. Is dankety dank a word, or did I just make that up?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure you just made that up. Pretty sure. That's a Shellism for sure.
That is. But speaking of dankety dank, I have this really good stuff, and I don't know what it's called, and I don't know the THC, but I love it. Does that count for anything?
Ooh, that does count. So you're smoking some really good no-name stuff
We're
today.
gonna call this mystery weed. All you need to know is that you put it in your pipe and smoke it. That's all you need to know. I'm taking it back to like the 1990s where you just buy a bag and what you get is what you get, and you don't bitch and you don't complain and you just smoke that shit and you be happy.
Well, if I could pay the prices I was paying in the 90s
Well,
for some of that, then I would do it. So you got a bag of no-name weed, but is it good? I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
was it any cheaper than your normal stuff?
The same as what I've been getting lately. You know what though? I'm having a problem with this particular stuff. Once you grind it, it's like poof, dry.
I've seen that a lot lately. I've actually seen on some of the different boards that I'm on, people posting pictures of these dry, little compact, hard nugs next to their big, large, not so compact homegrown nugs and wondering what's going on here?
What
Going
is
on
going on?
here?
Miss Horticulturist, what's going on here? Because it seems like it gets really dry, but in the same respect, it is sticky as a mofo. I had ground some up and put it in like this tiny little baggie. It all like conformed into like one big chunk, and I felt like I was breaking pieces off of it. Like very sticky, yet very dry. Weird combo. I know. I can't explain it.
Yeah, we've talked before about two of the things I suspect are going on. One of them is a growth hormone that can be used sometimes, and it does tend to make the buds a lot denser and a lot harder. And the other thing I think is more going on is I'm pretty sure it's stale weed from other states.
Damn it.
Yeah,
No wonder it was cheap.
more than like, especially if it's really dense and really dry, but sticky, even though it's dry. It was probably once fantastic pot, and now it's just stale.
Still a good smoke.
Yeah, regulations will help. But I am currently smoking,
Let me guess, gelato something or other.
yes, Gelinade 2
Ooh, from your hot box.
from the hot box. Yes, yes, it is. And I'm also smoking this blue Zushi.
Blue Zushi? What's
Blue
that?
Zushi. I don't know.
What's it smell like? Fruity?
Yeah, I don't know what that smell is. It's not the best smell. It's a little bit like gasoline, and it's a little bit like it's gassy, it's a little fruity, but maybe if that fruit was like a little off. I'm not sure. It's definitely good. It leans towards gassy and fruity, but there's a hint of something, maybe rotten fruit. I'm not sure how to describe it. But delicious flavor when smoked, very fruity. I really like it. It's very stony.
Do those hormones like add any taste or flavor?
They do not.
Okay, okay.
They can make it harsher if you find yourself coughing more often than you think you should. That might be one sign. There's a couple different ways you can tell, but the denseness is one way. They're usually super dense. They'll be harsher, make you cough a little bit more, and I can't remember what else.
That's because you smoke too much weed.
That's because I smoke too much weed.
You smoke too much gelatos and Jack
I
Hammers.
know. Gelinade 2, I know has a decent THC, but let's see what Blue Zushi is because I've never heard of that. I got it because I've never heard of it before.
I do that sometimes too. I'll just buy something just because I'm like, hey, I've never heard of that, and that sounds neat.
According to Leafly, it's a hybrid made by crossing Skittles and Cushmints.
See, now I've had a lot of the GMO Skittles, and that's been pretty good. But I've never had Skittles and Cushmints mixed. But I've had Cushmints, and that's been really good. My guess is it's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely good. And I would say it has this slightly sweet gasoline, but it tastes very sweet and very fruity. I do like the taste of the blue Skittles. It's very good.
Neither of us are smoking anything Rockstar Fabulous tonight. So I want to just kind of shift a little gears here quick, and I want to do a grow update with you.
Hmm.
So we haven't checked in on your growing statuses lately. Where are you at? What's growing? What you got? What's in what phase?
I have a lot of different cultivars going on right now. I have about 5 different cultivars, and I have some auto flowers, which are Gorilla Glue number
Ooh,
4.
I love Gorilla Glue. That's really
Yeah.
a good one. It really is.
Those are all auto flowers, and I am going to start do some of those outdoors and some of those indoors. And then the rest are all different types of gelato and blueberry strains. And those
Ooh.
are all photo period plants. I've got a bunch of clones and those going. I have several going to different family members to be outdoor plants. However, my garden is not as big. I had planned on doing many, many, many more plants, but due to all the different shit that's been happening, Mercury retrograde, some deaths in the family, unfortunately, um, my plans have not reached the dreams that I wanted them to be. So, but it's going good. It's going pretty good.
Excellent. I can't wait. And let's just point out all hail Mercury going direct.
Thank all the gods. I am so glad. So glad. It could not have happened soon enough.
Was this a bad one or was it just me?
It was a really, really bad one. And I am prized that we made it through. Both of us
Right?
had our share of bullshit. So it's going pretty good. It's not anywhere near as big as I wanted it to be or in as good a shape as I wanted it to be honest. Having a grow takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And especially now that I'm doing photo period again and taking clones, that's just exponentially more work. And to be honest, I'm not getting as much help as I kind of need.
And there's only 24 hours in a day.
Seriously, I've definitely bit off more than I can chew. And I lost a couple plants because I'm not paying attention and I'm a little scattered and I'm stretched a little too thin right now. So the garden's going okay. But this whole going outside and kind of expanding to help some of the family, I went a little too fast, too soon. And then I hit too many roadblocks. You know, life and
Yeah.
Mercury retrograde happen.
Well, and also where you're currently located isn't the best weather friendly locale either.
No, it is not. I have not been growing enough to cover how much we smoke, and I'm starting to get a little upset with how much we're spending on weed. So I'm hoping that I can kind
Welcome to
of,
what the rest of us in the world are dealing with here.
right? Like if you want to smoke good stuff, that shit's pricey. That's
Yeah.
pricey. And smoking the 100 to $150 ounces is great, but you know,
Yeah.
it's going to be dry or it's not going to be good. It's not going to have the punch that other weed is going to have. So I miss my homegrown top shelf, really good shit. And so it's hard. It's hard being pulled in a lot of different directions.
Go back to basics, 2 buckets at a time.
Right? That's not going to cover it, Chelle. It's 6 plants at a time. You know, I'm pushing that limit and I need those 6 plants to be monsters, really. So I want to read an email that we got because I think this
I
is pretty
love
funny.
listener emails. These things are always so great.
This one's really funny too. Okay. So this one comes from Karen. And Karen says, I'm St. Louis born, currently live in Arkansas, and I recently got caught up on a bunch of your episodes and wanted to chime in on some things. Regarding the zombie road in Wildwood, I grew up 30 minutes from there and had never heard of anything about it. Wildwood is a very ritzy white suburb of St. Louis, so the next time I visit, I anticipate being apprehended by the cops. Secondly, in Arkansas at least, a wampus cat is a slang term for an unwashed lady flower.
Wait. Oh, I got you.
You
Okay,
got that?
okay.
She
I
says
got
you're
you.
welcome.
Appreciate.
That is hilarious.
Now I'm gonna say that to somebody. You know I'm gonna. And I'm gonna say it in the context of this email.
That's Shell's new insult. Be like, oh, you wampus cat.
You
It's
damn wampus
terrible.
cat.
I'm going to go re listen to that episode with that in mind. And I'm going to lose my shit every time we say wampus cat. I know it. So, yeah, after this, I'm going to take my high ass over and listen to that episode. She said, Third, you've probably been told this already, but crystal ball bongs are available at Canna Style. They have a whole witchy canna collection and it is badass. We need that bong. We
I
definitely
need that.
do.
I actually texted that again to you the other day, and I'm like, I need this. I need that crystal ball bong.
I want that crystal ball bong too. It would be amazing.
I just got to figure out where's the water go.
Right? How do you fill it? And she says, finally, and most importantly, I've got a topic for you to cover. I thought
Ooh,
about sending in my personal experience, but so many people have had experiences here, and the history is so creepy and absurd, you might think about featuring it. She says that topic is the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Although I did this, actually. The Crescent Hotel episode is episode 22. It's called Melonhead Cryptids and the Snake Oil Salesman Serial Killer.
wow, episode 22. I feel like that was 1,000 years ago.
Episode 22, a very long time ago. Yeah, it was about that guy, that con man who pretended to be a doctor and was saying he could cure people of cancer. And he was really like murdering them by giving them his weird concoction. She says, in fact, a few years ago, the current owners were trying to pour a new parking lot or something and accidentally dug up a bunch of preserved human remains. And the University of Arkansas Archaeology Department took over the dig, which is pretty cool. She said it was also a school for young ladies at some point and is currently a hotel you can stay at. And she said it has a crescent moon motif, which is witchy and pretty, and they have the best Sunday brunch in the Ozarks, I promise. It's been featured in a bunch of TV shows, and it is still claiming souls. She says, some dude fell off a balcony to his death just a few years ago. Unfortunately, with our current politics, Arkansas isn't a great place to be, but Eureka Springs is the most unique place I've ever been, and the Crescent is its jewel. Y'all should visit. Anyway, I love the show. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much for emailing us, Karen. I hope you get to check out our episode on the Crescent Hotel. It was definitely a creepy, creepy place.
And I'd also just like to point out, I just think it's funny how it worked out. So if you want to go back to episode 54, which is titled Layla's Birthday Wampus Cat.
Oh, no. Oh, God. Why would I get that for my birthday? That's terrible.
I swear to God. You go back on Spotify, episode 54, Layla's Birthday Wampus Cat.
I'm going to be changing that title ASAP.
You can listen about Layla's Wampus Cat.
It's not my Wampus cat, I swear.
Karen, I want you to know that I am going to take that to the grave with me, okay?
I'm never going to live this down.
And now that I've actually put it out there and I've talked about it enough that she can't just cut all of this out, Layla's birthday episode, Layla's Birthday Wampus Cat, episode 54. Check it out.
Public announcement. Layla will be changing the title of that episode ASAP.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Karen. But Layla will also be getting high as fuck and listening to that episode and laughing my ass off the
I just
entire
think
time.
it was so ironic that it was. Oh, Karen, you're going to make me pee myself. Come on.
Karen, thank you for that laugh at my expense, unfortunately. So, Chelle.
Yeah.
The fun does not stop there. It's
Oh, Lord.
not quite as good as Layla's birthday
Wampus
unwashed
cat.
lady flower. But it's close. This one comes from Brittany. And Brittany says, hello, ladies. My name is Brittany. I'm from Oklahoma, where medical is legal.
God bless you, Brittany.
We're with you, Brett. She says, tonight I am smoking leftover birthday cake from my birthday. Happy birthday,
Ooh,
Brittany.
Happy birthday.
I hope you didn't get a Wampus cat. She says, I'd like to say I love the show. I've spent hours at work binge listening to pass the day. Fuck yeah.
Don't let your boss hear it.
Right? I don't know if it's work appropriate, especially not this episode.
Right? Actually, it makes me want to look up more Wampus Cat info.
I am literally, when we are done here, going to finish smoking this bag and I'm going to go listen to that episode. It's going to be hilarious. All right. So I'm sorry, Brittany. Happy birthday. Then, Chelle, she's got a message for you.
Uh-oh.
Chelle, I don't know if you've ever heard of a cryptid called the Kappa. It is Japanese folklore. I highly recommend it for the show. It is hilarious and interesting to say the least. The Kappa is interested in the human Shirikodama, which is said to hold the soul. Also, there is a ranch in Utah called Skinwalker Ranch, which we've heard of. We're totally going to cover that, Brittany. Absolutely. She says the History Channel is doing a show on it. It has everything: UFOs, cryptids, you name it. I'm obsessed. I would love to hear y'all's opinions of Skinwalker Ranch. Have a wonderful evening, Brittany. Then, this is the funny part. She says, P.S. And here's where I have a little bit of a problem, Brittany. I have to say, we do not have an accent. I have been told time and time again that
Brittany has the accent. We don't.
right? See, I love Chelle's on my side. She doesn't even know what Brittany's saying, and we're in this together. I love it.
Right?
Besties, man, besties. So, but Brittany says, P.S. I've never heard anyone pronounce elementary, documentary, or Oregon the way y'all do. Gets me every time.
You know, that's so funny. Brittany, you're not the only one. I'm not saying I agree with you, but you're not the only one because at work, in my mundane work, day-to-day life, pay the bills job, they pick on me because I say elementary. I'm like, that's
What?
how it's spelled. How else do you say it? It's elementary. I don't know. What?
Wait a minute. No, you've heard this before?
There is a specific person at work. I will not say her name, but she giggles at me all the time because I say elementary. I don't know. I'm
How you
saying it
say it?
right. That's how you say it, right?
I think so. I thought so.
All right, Brittany, Brittany's gonna have to send us a voice message because I need to know how it's elementary. What am I doing wrong here?
I have been told my whole life I have no accent, zero accent. I have like the TV accent, I guess, which is to say no accent.
Right.
Typical American, boring. But Brittany says I say elementary, documentary, and Oregon wrong. So I am so curious. I love it. Do we have an accent that we're
How
just
the
so
hell do you say
aware of?
Oregon wrong?
I don't know.
You know what I think it is? You know what I think it is? You know how there's people who like remember Sherlock Holmes, elementary, my dear Watson. They say elementary, my dear Watson, and we say elementary.
Oh, elementary.
Elementary. I think it's elementary. And that sounds
Elementary.
so British to
I
me.
feel like I have to raise my
Elementary, my
pinky.
darling.
Elementary.
Yeah,
Is that how? I don't know. So, Brittany, please send us a little voice recording of how we're supposed to say elementary,
I'm
documentary in
confused.
Oregon.
But you know what? I'm used to it. Try being a New Yorker moving to Salem, Massachusetts. Everybody thinks I have the accent. I'm like, I do not. Y'all have the accent.
I love hearing your love talk because of the Boston, Massachusetts accent is phenomenal.
It's kind of funny, I gotta admit. But yeah, I definitely am the minority accent wise in my current location in Massachusetts, but I don't have an accent. It's everybody else.
That's what I'm saying too. So please, if you think we're saying words funny or with an accent, please email us and tell us what you think. You know, we're always interested. I love having an accent. Thank you. I'm so glad I have an accent. I can
It's
say it now.
elementary, my dear
I'm
Watson.
not boring. I have a cool accent. Or maybe I just say words wrong. I'm not sure.
Or maybe we're just high. Who
Maybe we're just
knows?
high. That could be it. Future Layla here. Mystery solved. Apparently, the pronunciations of elementary, documentary, and even words like sedimentary are unique to upstate New York, and in some cases, the northeast region of the United States. But mostly these pronunciations are unique to upstate New York. So if you ever were curious about whether Chelle and I were actually from that area, here's the proof. Future Layla out.
I do want to let Brittany know in the time we've been talking, I looked up Kappa. I am down, okay? If you've got a cryptid that favors cucumbers and loves to engage in sumo wrestling, I am down. I am going to be looking this thing up and doing some research because now I'm hooked. A cryptid that likes cucumbers and sumo wrestling. How can I not be hooked on this? And don't forget episode 54, Layla was birthday wampus.
Oh God, I am so changing that episode title. Or maybe I'll just leave it for the comedic effect. But hey, unwashed lady flowers as a birthday present. There've been worse. There've been worse things. So with that visual in all of our heads, what have you got for me today as far as ghoulish stories, Chelle?
Well, I came across this place. The reason it kind of piqued my interest is because it actually reminded me of an old mansion from the town I'm from. This is not from the town I'm from, but it just looks like one.
The Roberson Mansion that we talked about in a previous episode.
Actually, that's exactly the one it looks like. This is interesting. Here's a question for you. How does an 1840s brick fortress mansion in Southwest Virginia get linked to the classic and tragic Southern rock band?
What classic Southern rock band?
I'm glad you asked because it's one we all love.
Oh,
Lynyrd Skynyrd.
oh, love Lynyrd Skynyrd.
What's your
Awesome.
name? Sweet Home Alabama. How can you go
Sure.
wrong?
Yeah.
As you are aware, obviously, some of the members of Lynyrd Skynyrd met a tragic fate in that 1977 plane crash. What it kill? Like their singer and somebody else in the band, I believe.
Yeah, it was the original lead
So,
singer.
anywho, back to the mansion. Back in the 1840s, it was called the Major Graham Mansion, and it's in Wythe County. I'm probably saying this wrong. If you are in Virginia and I'm saying this wrong, I apologize. And like I said, built in the 1840s, and it's kind of like that. I don't know how to describe it, like a solid brick mansion, basically. They actually described it as an imposing brick fortress built in stages. So apparently, the first stage started in 1840. And the guy, Major David Graham, that the house was built for, he was a Confederate Army officer. So just that alone should give you an idea of the vibe this place has got. So you got a Confederate officer. And as we know, some of those Confederate soldiers and some of the Union and Confederate soldiers don't realize the war is over.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot with battle sites.
So, I mean, just that alone, you can just imagine that this place is already crawling, probably literally with soldiers.
Yeah.
So, to kind of get the coming together of the Lynyrd Skynyrd story with this mansion, kind of fast forwarding, like I said, that was in the 1800s, but fast forwarding to 1988, there was a owner, JC, what was his name? JC Weaver. He was a Florida businessman. He had bought 4,000 acres, and part of the property included this mansion. What he did was he didn't want the house necessarily. He was looking for the 4,000 acres. I didn't find out if he wanted it for agricultural purposes or what, but he wanted the land more so than this particular mansion. This just happened to be a part of it.
Okay.
So it kind of went like dormant for decades. People started, like kids, neighborhood kids, people passerby started seeing shadows around the property. No one had lived in the house in a significant amount of time. They were seeing faces in the windows. People talked about Clara, and they called her a little girl ghost who was believed to have been an orphan that the Graham family cared for back in, the Civil War days. So they would see this child through the windows.
Oh,
They would
wow.
see different men and women's faces through the windows, yet no one lived here.
I wonder what kind of triggered it to start happening.
Have you ever been inside a house that's been abandoned for a long time?
Yeah.
Like earthly folk,
Yeah, and it has that kind of eerie feeling.
like it's not abandoned.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the ghosts took over. Okay. So anyway, this guy has it. He loved the spooky house. And even though he didn't live in it, what he would do, he would entertain his friends.
So he turned it into a party house
Kind of
essentially.
like a party house, basically. He played guitar and piano, and he absolutely, like, Lynyrd Skynyrd was like his heroes musically. So he'd throw these parties in the mansion, and he'd be singing and playing the guitar and piano, and he'd be like blaring out not just Lynyrd Skynyrd music, but all types of music, including Lynyrd Skynyrd. Now, this is a piece that I kind of found interesting because I would have thought that people like us would have heard of something like this. We used to go to a lot of music festivals, and I'm just surprised we haven't heard of this. So in 2007, he launched at this 4,000 acre property, he launched what was called Graham Fest. You ever heard of
Okay.
that?
I don't
Never heard
think
of Graham
so.
Fest?
Mm-mm.
It was kind of like folky, but it featured performances by himself, as well as the Roanoke Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of the gamut of the Roanoke Symphony Orchestra all the way down to local yokel folk musicians.
Kind of like the Rooney Fest.
Basically, yeah. So he's, like I said, he started this in 2007. In 2009, when he did the Graham Fest, Weaver hired a Lynyrd Skynyrd tribute band called the Long Island Street Survivors. They basically, that was the name of that, was a tie-in to the original Lynyrd Skynyrd. Obviously he's doing this festival. He has this tribute band. He does feature more than just this tribute band. Talk about a guy who can pull together a festival. He was able to include two members of the original Lynyrd Skynyrd band.
Really? That's
Yeah.
impressive.
He's got this like guy. On the microphone was backup singer JoJo Billingsley, who incidentally had a foreshadowing dream of the plane crash in 77.
Oh, wow. So she had had a dream that the crash was going to happen
And as the backup singer, she ended up not getting on the plane
because of the dream?
because of the dream. So here she is
No
alive.
shit. Very Final Destination-esque.
I know, right? Also at the Graham Fest that year, they had on the drums Artemis Pyle, the only Lynyrd Skynyrd band member to physically climb out of the wreckage and seek help after the plane crashed.
Damn.
The girl who had the prophetic dream and said, I ain't get my ass on that plane, and the guy who drug his burning body out of the plane to try to save himself are the two band members who show up at this Graham Fest. So the guy loves Lynyrd Skynyrd, Ghosty House, tribute band with two original members that, and if this girl's having prophetic dreams, that's got to tell you something already.
Absolutely.
Both Billingsley and Pyle were walking the grounds outside the Major Graham mansion. They were walking along, they were slashing through the swamps, just kind of hanging out. All of a sudden, they hear the final notes of Sweet Home Alabama, and Freebird
What?
just kind of fade off.
How?
I don't know how. Ask the ghosty with the mosty. That was the very last time the two of them were ever physically together ever again, because Billingsley died of cancer the following June.
Oh, wow. Damn. That's some shit luck.
But imagine, like, all of a sudden out of nowhere, you hear the final notes of Sweet Home Alabama and Freebird, and it was the
Wow.
last time they were together.
That's wild. That's really fucking wild.
So he stops having the Graham Fest. It was over after that. So that 2009 show was it. After that, they decided to turn it into like what we'd call today a modern haunt. In the fall of 2010, they did the first annual haunted house premiere. They did it every October. They did props, skulls, spider snakes, the whole haunted house thing. They had a room. House is haunted. The neighborhood and town folks people say they see a little girl in the damn window to the point where they know her name, okay? So
Right?
you got little Clara looking out the window. So now you're going to do a family fun haunted house, and you're going to have one of the rooms called Clara's room.
Of course they are. They're going to take advantage of the legend, but that's going to stir shit up.
Yeah. So then they used to do tricks where they would try to test the alleged spirit of Clara to see if she would roll a ball back and forth. All I can think of is poking the bear.
Yeah, right? That's like a big time poking the bear.
They ended up at some point in 2012 bringing in some ghost hunters. I was not able to find out if these were pro, like we've talked about, or more kind of like your everyday mom and pop ghost hunters. But anyway, they brought in some ghost hunters that also were kind of clairvoyant. They were able to record strange messages, like the typical, my favorite ghost message of all time, get out.
That's like a classic. It's a staple.
But here's another interesting one. They got several times on their recordings a ghost spirit saying, I don't play that tune.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's different though. And that's really related
Yeah,
to,
but you got to figure if that house was full of music for most of its existence, there's got to be a ghost in there that thinks they're still playing music. They also got voices that said, what's your name? And another one said, what's your song request?
interesting.
Here's the thing, though. What's Your Name was the biggest hit single from Lynyrd Skynyrd's album Street Survivors, which was the name of the tribute band, and the last album by the original Lynyrd Skynyrd folks. Just saying. Just
Whoa.
saying.
Mind blown.
But wait. Weaver said in 2019 that when he would play the piano in the house alone, there were spirits in there that would hum along with him.
Oh no, no, that's too creepy. I wouldn't be able to do that. Would you play the piano again if something hummed along with you?
I wouldn't make a habit of it. Like one
No.
time, and I might even run a little bit. But like, I'm not just gonna be like, all right, gonna go hang out in the mansion, gonna go chill with Clara for a bit. We're gonna sing some tunes.
That's a lot of musical people there. That's interesting.
But I do want to also point out your most favorite thing on the whole planet.
Orbs?
They have pictures in Clara's bedroom that are covered in orbs.
Yes, yes, yes.
What they did just to kind of rule out a camera or dust or a bad shot or bad lighting, they had 5 people in 5 different spots in the room, kind of like almost like in a circle. Think of like a witch's circle. Everybody has a camera and they're all pointing it at the same thing, and everybody's getting photographs that are like not just 1, 2, 3, like we're talking 20, 30, 40 in one shot.
I am so excited. I
This
freaking
little
love
girl's
that.
room is like freaking orb haven. It could be the little girl. It could be the Civil War thing. It could be people who partied there over the years. Who knows?
That's the thing with orbs that really gets me, and that's why I love them and they're so mysterious. Even though I know a lot of them are lens flares or dust or insects, I know that that's what the majority of orbs is. But the ones that intrigue me are the ones that are in this little girl's room. Why that room? Why not all the rooms of the house? Why the Civil War battle sites? Why not every single open field? So that's what really, really intrigues me about orbs. And those are the stories I'm so curious about and can't let go of. I want to go to this room and take pictures. Can we go, Chelle? Can we go?
Oh, I would totally go. And it's actually not that far away.
Ooh.
But houses that were built during the Civil War unfortunately did have separate slave quarters. These folks in that period of time, and there was a investigation by the Virginia Paranormal Society in 2007. They had some very distinct voices in the slave quarters. They were able to pick up when they asked, you know how like investigators will be like, what's your name, ghosty mosty? And they actually got a response that in the slave quarters that said Connor.
Oh, wow.
When they were in Clara's room and they asked Clara, can you throw us the ball? They distinctly recorded a no.
No shit. When EVPs respond, I get chills every time. That freaks me out.
They went into an upstairs bedroom that was called the bride's bedroom, and
Ooh, intriguing.
they asked if there was a lady in the room, and a female voice was recorded. Yes.
Is there any history on why it's called the bride's room?
No, not that I saw.
Damn. I wonder if there's like a lady in white story in here along
Yeah,
with the
right.
orbs
There's a damn lady in white story everywhere.
everywhere.
That they were in another room called the Confederate room. They were trying to move a table and they recorded a voice saying, don't touch that table.
These are
Very
intelligent,
relevant.
interactive ghosts. These aren't recordings. They're responding.
They're being asked specific questions and they're getting responses.
Specific answers.
Now, the Ghost Hunters team, they had Ghost Hunters there, the TV show that we love on
Mm.
Sci-Fi. Ghost Hunters was quoted as saying they can't say who or what is haunting the mansion. There was reports of a 7-foot tall phantom on the road outside the mansion. Ghost Hunters believes it was an optical illusion, but there are people that are like, absolutely not. I saw it. I don't care what they say. This is real. I am not crazy. So I don't know what to think about
That's a
that.
tough one. If they're thinking that it's not, what they saw wasn't relevant, but other people are saying they have seen it and experienced it. That's hard.
Right. So there were people that were very adamant that Ghost Hunters was kind of dissing their ghosty stories.
We don't catch everything. You and I don't catch everything. They're ghost hunters is human too. Maybe they just happen to miss that one.
Well, and also we've also over the times have noticed that sometimes they're more receptive to talk to certain people and not to certain people.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe to a ghost, talking to a ghost hunter is like us having to talk to like a lawyer or like getting called into the boss's office. You're like, oh, I
Who
don't
wants
want
to
to
do
do
that?
that. No. But if you're like, hey, you want to talk to Layla? Hell yeah. Or hey, do you want to go in your boss's office? That's a hard no.
Exactly.
It could be a case of that, but basically, they claim that the Graham Mansion will scare you. This is where you get me in the fuck around and find out attitude. People say that they've had folks pass out because they're so scared of the ghosty activity there.
Or because the energy is so potent, it just kind of overloads some people's system.
Right. They say they couldn't get through the haunted house because the spirit was attacking them.
Hmm.
I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not discounting anyone's experience, but wow, it was attacking them.
I mean, we have seen some of these paranormal investigator groups go into places and come out with scratches they can't explain, or bruises or marks on them. So maybe that's what they're referring to. Sometimes people get their hair pulled or their clothes pulled.
Right. But for $20, you yourself can go to Wythe County, Virginia, and go through the Graham Mansion and see all the Orby orbs that your heart can take.
For 20 bucks, I would go check it out, which is probably what they're counting on. But, if people are legit getting orb photos in that room, I would like to see it.
But I think that, honestly, I think they're trying to make too much of the Lynyrd Skynyrd tie-in. I think that, okay, the owner liked Lynyrd Skynyrd. He'd play Lynyrd Skynyrd music. The two people were there.
Everybody liked Lynyrd Skynyrd back then.
Everybody likes, if you don't know Freebird, who are you? Just because the two surviving folks were there for the last Graham Fest, like, I don't know if that's got any relevance, but I think they're playing off that, kind of like, I'm not saying
Yeah,
Amityville wasn't a little weird, but I don't think what happened happened.
right.
Kind of the same thing. I'm not saying there isn't music being played there, but I don't think that Lynyrd Skynyrd is tied to this house.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting with all the music that happens and people that make music comments, but
Don't make a mountain out of a molehill just to make a buck.
yeah, and the what's your name? That's a common question that people ask. Ghosts say that. People say that to ghosts. It's one of the
Yeah, but
first things you say.
they
What's
were
your name?
asking specific questions and getting specific answers, though.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that might not necessarily be a reference to the song. That's all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. I get what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
So it's just a
And
little
they
too
were just
tenuous.
able to kind of
Yeah,
risk
that's
it.
yeah, on first hearing it, that sounds like, oh wow, what a great connection. But then I thought about it and I was like, well, that's what they all say.
Are you finding meaning where there's none?
Yeah, ghosts all say that. I mean, that's the first thing an investigator will ask. What's your name? What's your age? How did you die? Where were you born? What's your birthday? But what's your name is a common thing. So I don't know. I think that's just a little too ephemeral of a connection.
I am sure this place is haunted. I am sure Clara is there and people are looking out the windows, but I don't think that has a damn thing to do with Lynyrd Skynyrd. I actually think, honestly, I would guess that probably a lot of them have more Civil War ties.
It sounds like it. Especially when you get orbs involved. A lot of them do seem to be around a lot of those Civil War sites for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Gettysburg, it's just one big orb.
Right? The whole place, just an orb.
Yeah.
Everybody gets orbs there.
So I think it's interesting. I think it sounds like a cool place. I just think they're milking the Lynyrd Skynyrd tie-in. But otherwise, I think it's spooktacular. Totally worth the $20. I want to pay the $20. If you're going to threaten me with a good time of passing out, bring it on. I just don't totally buy into the Lynyrd Skynyrd tie-in. That's all.
Okay. Okay. As someone who has presented some stories with sketchy aspects, I respect that. I think I agree with you. I think the Lynyrd Skynyrd is more for attention, maybe.
Right. That's kind of how I feel. But I
Yeah.
do think it's probably legitimately haunted. Absolutely. But I just think they're milking that tie-in.
I think you might be right. But I want to go. I'll pay the 20 bucks. I want me some good orb photos.
Anybody who is near Wythe County, Virginia, if you have been to this house, I need to know if you passed out. I need to know.
If you passed out at this place, email us, thestonedwitcheshour@gmail.com.
Or if you want to pass out there and kind of let us know how it goes, that's cool too.
Or if you passed out there and think we say some words funny, email us. And we will say elementary, documentary, and Oregon all day long for your amusement. So
I want to go on Google and hear how they tell me to pronounce Oregon. Is it Oregon? Oregon?
I don't
Oregon?
know.
Is that what they say? But that's organ is like an organ in your body. Like your heart is an organ. Oregon is a state.
I don't know,
Shit, we're
Chelle.
screwed.
The indoctrination runs so deep. I think I'm saying them the right way. I'm so confused.
The weed makes it sound right.
There you go. The weed makes it all sound right. So, before I get into my stories, and I'm sure you can guess, I've given you a huge hint where we're going. I want to say that we started this podcast just so that you and I, who had moved to opposite sides of the country, we met in New York. You moved to Salem, Massachusetts. I moved to Southern California and now all over the place. And we were separated and I missed you. And I wanted an excuse to get together. And I'm like, hey,
This was how we started hanging out from 3,000 miles away.
exactly. Just like we used to, we get together, we talk about wild paranormal shit. We do fun witchy stuff and we would smoke mass quantities of cannabis.
Enough to kill a rhino.
Thus, the Stoned Witches Hour was born. But the podcast has started being heard all over the world, which still blows my mind.
Hi, world.
Love you guys.
Okay, fess up. Spill the beans. Who out of the nifty 50 United States, who is not listening?
Just one state. Can you believe this? Whole world, most of the USA, one freaking state.
We have listeners in New Zealand. What damn American ain't listening to us? What one? Because I'm driving there.
South Dakota.
Wow, that's far away.
Not one person in South Dakota has listened to the Stoned Witches Hour.
Why?
I don't know. We're amazing.
Let me ask you a question. We have listeners in North Dakota.
Yes.
Okay, everyone from North Dakota, I need you to drive across the border with your little Spotify and your Apple Music and get these people going. We're fun.
Maybe I should just say that no one lives in South Dakota because some episode not too long ago, we were talking about Missouri.
Uh-huh.
We say that about every state. You know, we travel through, we're like, oh, we're going to such and such state. We're like, oh, nobody lives in such and such state. And I said that on air about Missouri. And that episode got so many listeners from Missouri. I'm so sorry. I apologize.
You're a jerk.
I am a jerk. I'm an asshole. I know people live in Missouri. I'm so sorry.
I happen to know, I know a person who lives in Missouri, actually. So I know there's at least one.
Obviously, that person is fake. No one lives in Missouri, Chelle. So maybe I should just say that no one lives in South Dakota.
Because then they'll all start listening.
And then our listenership from South Dakota will go through the roof if the past is any history. So hi, Missouri. I love you guys. And hopefully hi, South Dakota.
Here's what we need to do. We're going to give a shout out to Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, and Minnesota. You know why?
Why?
Because those are all the states that surround South Dakota, and now they feel left out. Now South Dakota feels real left out, don't you, over there in South Dakota?
South Dakota. Take that.
It's because of Mount Rushmore, I know it.
Is that it? They're
It's
all
gotta
just
be.
looking at us disapprovingly with that stony glare.
Because they're smoking the devil's lettuce, and it's way better than what we had.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Well, good old Washington there could have rolled up the Constitution, smoked that. Oh, that's blasphemous. That feels blasphemous. I shouldn't say that. That sounds so bad. All right, so to cover up my blasphemy before the FBI contacts me, I'm going to talk about a place in South Dakota to try and entice some listeners from there.
How about this? I'm going to put this out there. If we get a listener from South Dakota, I'll do a tarot reading for them.
Ooh, hey, do you live in South Dakota? Can you prove it? Email us at the Stoned Witches Hour.
And I'll do a tarot reading for you.
Chelle's got a tarot reading for you. Damn.
That's how much I want a listener from every state.
We'll party. We will celebrate. I don't know. What's the best weed in South Dakota? We'll have to look it up.
Is that legal? Is it legal in South Dakota?
It's illegal. Recreational cannabis is illegal, and the voters want it that way.
Okay, now we know why we have no listeners in South
Now we know
Dakota.
why.
Wow, that's not nice.
Possession of more than 2 ounces is a class 6 felony. Oh my.
Are you shitting me?
Since 2020, the voters of South Dakota have passed Measure 26, which approved medical cannabis. Medical is legal in South Dakota, but prohibited for recreational.
Wow.
Last November, the idea of recreational weed came up again in South Dakota, and they voted it down.
Damn. And they're like not too far from Colorado.
So it is medically legal. So that's a start, but it is illegal recreationally.
All right, South Dakotans, we get it. We understand. We're not happy about it, but we get it.
But I'm going to talk about your haunted state anyways because
It's haunted.
that's very haunted. They are home to the haunted Black Hills in the Badlands.
That's where the Badlands are?
Either all or part of them, right?
No shit.
We're going to Deadwood, South Dakota. You ever heard of that, Chelle?
That already sounds like there's some stuff going on there.
Yeah, Deadwood. A lot of people might have heard from, I believe there's a TV show called Deadwood,
There
which
is, yeah.
loosely based on some history, but it's very famous in the US of A because a lot of famous cowboys and infamous outlaws either died in Deadwood or passed through Deadwood. Can you name any cowboys, Chelle?
The Marlboro Man. John Wayne. John Wayne.
I mean, like a real in real life cowboy.
Billy the Kid. There's one for you. Me, John Wayne.
Close enough. I'm sure he's been in Deadwood. I'm
He
sure
played
he
a
was.
cowboy on TV.
There you go. It works. So, a lot of cowboys. Deadwood became a town when gold was discovered in the southern Black Hills in 1874. So that it was during the Great Gold Rush of America, and a lot of miners came to the Black Hills in 1876. And they came to this spot. It was a big gulch, and it had a creek with gold in it, and it was filled with dead trees, where the name came from. Deadwood.
Oh, so this was one of those big, huge gold rush towns then.
Exactly.
Okay.
Basically, the population grew up literally overnight. As soon as gold was discovered in the water, it went from not very many people, not very many colonial people there, because actually the place had been granted to the Lakota people in 1868 through the Treaty of Fort Laramie. And the treaty guaranteed ownership of the Black Hills to the Lakota people. And the Black Hills are sacred to the Lakota. And so there was a lot of disputes. All these people came in wanting this gold on land that had been promised to the Lakota. And of course, all these arguments reached the Supreme Court, and very obviously, the Lakota did not win. So, despite that, by about 1877, there were 12,000 people living in Deadwood, with up to about 25,000 people at its height. So, gold, as you know, when it would attract miners into an area, it also attracted everybody else. It brought their families, so there were shops. And of course, there's a lot of single guys, so there were bars and saloons and brothels.
Well, that was all you could do back then. You were either drinking or prostituting, for lack of a more vulgar word.
Yeah, especially for women. There weren't a lot of ways for women to make money, and there weren't a lot of ways for women to be safe in that time. Lawlessness was rife. I mean, there was a reason why, the whole cowboy trope with the gunfights at noon.
And back then, women weren't even allowed to really own property.
No, women pretty much were property at that time. So one of the few ways they could make money was by being a prostitute or by owning a brothel. Deadwood was home to quite a few brothels, including women named Madam Mustache and Dirty M.
Just call me Dirty M.
Right? I'll be Madam Mustache. Madam Dora Dufran was actually the wealthiest brothel owner in Deadwood, and she was very popular with several of the famous cowboys I'm about to mention. Deadwood is famous because mostly of Wild Bill Hickock and Calamity Jane.
Okay, I know. I've heard of Calamity Jane.
Right? These are famous cowboy and cowgirls in the late 1870s. Wild Bill Hickock was a gambler as well as all sorts of other things. And he was in Deadwood when he died. He was in a hotel and he was playing poker. And he got a hand, which is to this day, as a poker player, I knew exactly what they were talking about when they said he had what's called the dead man's hand.
I don't even know what that is. Not that I'm a huge poker player.
A dead man's hand in poker is aces over eights. It's two pair, aces and eights. specifically black aces and black eights, which is the exact hand that it's rumored that Wild Bill Hickock had when he was gunned to death by a lesser poker player who thought he was cheating.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So that was the original dead man's hand. So Calamity Jane also worked with Wild Bill Hickock and was known to have a huge crush on him and followed him everywhere he went. He did not return her affections,
They never do.
but they are buried side by side in Mount Moriah Cemetery in Deadwood, which was her wish, actually. So the Earp brothers, Wyatt and Morgan Earp, also visited Deadwood.
Okay, I've heard of Wyatt Earp.
Yep. They left for Dodge City, but they were known to come through Deadwood. And also Doc Holliday, another well-known cowboy, also was known to frequent Deadwood. But this place is also known to be haunted as fuck. The whole town, you can go visit historic Deadwood and see a lot of these places, some of which still operate as hotels. Some are restaurants now, and I believe one of them is a museum. So in this famous cowboy town are the Fairmont, the Adams House, the Bullock Hotel, and Mount Moriah Cemetery, and all of them are super haunted. So we'll start with the Fairmont, which was in the 1800s. It was a brothel and a saloon. So it was a saloon, and it was found out that while it was a saloon, there was a man named Henry, and his girlfriend, who was a prostitute, had died of syphilis in
Yeah,
the
that was
brothel.
kind of a thing back then.
Yeah, and he killed himself because of it. He was so distraught. And people will hear from him. I believe that psychics often hear from him in particular, and he's known as the grumpy man. He's still very angry about the death of his girlfriend.
That sucks.
Yeah. This place, unfortunately, has been the site of quite a few different. I guess a lot of people have romantic difficulties, maybe because it was a brothel. I don't know. But a woman named Maggie killed herself by jumping out of a window there after her boyfriend broke up with her. And her
Oh,
ghost is often seen wandering the halls looking for him. There's also in 1907, a girl who worked upstairs when it was just a hotel. Her name was Margaret Broadwater, and she jumped out a third floor window, and she had gotten pregnant, and she wasn't married. So,
which was not a good thing back then.
also that same year, a man came in whose girlfriend worked there, and he shot a man who was a client of the girlfriend. So I guess she was a prostitute. So he went in and shot the client, shot his girlfriend, and then while he was escaping, accidentally shot himself and bled to death on the sidewalk.
Dumbass.
And all three of their ghosts are still there.
I hope his ghost walks around kicking itself in the ass.
Right? The place is crawling with orbs, and people will often catch photographs of orbs, particularly in the hallways. And there's also a little boy that people will take pictures of, but I'm not sure where he came from, but he shows up in photographs as well. So another place in town where people see ghosts is called the historic Adams House. And the Adams House was built in 1892, and it was owned by a gentleman named W.E. Adams, who was one of the founders of Deadwood. And it was reported to be one of the finest homes in Deadwood and west of Omaha. So W.E. Adams purchased the home and arrived in Deadwood in 1877. And he tried gold mining, but he wasn't really good at it. So then he and his brother went into business at a grocery store, which honestly, if I was going to move to someplace like this, that's what I would do. Like, I wouldn't try gold mining. That'd be too hard and too difficult, I think. I would start up a shop selling things to gold miners. That's what they did. They made a fortune running a grocery store. Unfortunately, tragedy after tragedy struck Mr. Adams as soon as he made it rich at his grocery stores. His wife, Alice, was diagnosed with cancer. She went to California to be with their daughter, Helen, who was pregnant and about to have a baby. She got there, but unfortunately the cancer was further along than she realized, and she passed away shortly after getting to her daughter's house.
Oh,
The stress of her mother passing away caused Helen to go into premature labor, and she died. The baby only lived for a few hours, and then the baby also died.
all three of them?
In less than 48 hours, he had lost his wife, his daughter, and his granddaughter.
That's a shit day. The fuck? Wow.
It was just a couple years later, he met a woman named Mary Mastrovich Visich, A lot of people thought this was a little bit of a, it was kind of like a what they call a May December romance because he was 73 and she was only 29 at the time.
Gotcha.
And then I guess within a few years of getting married, he died of a stroke inside the house. And shortly afterwards, his wife left, saying she couldn't stay there because the house was haunted. She kept hearing him walking around upstairs. And so she literally locked the house up and did not come back or touch it for 50 years.
50?
50.
Oh my God. It just kind of was just dormant.
She just left it locked up and she refused to step foot in it, saying it was haunted. When she would come back to town, she'd stay in a hotel nearby. She would not stay in the house.
Oh, weird. Did she say it was her husband?
Yes, she said it was definitely him.
If that were me and my husband died and was haunting me, wouldn't you stay and be like, oh, let's stay
She was
together?
29 years old, married a 73-year-old, very wealthy
Okay,
widow.
yeah, okay.
I don't know. I'm not saying it wasn't a love match, but probably wasn't a love match. Um, So
Oh,
Mary sold the house and it was turned into a museum and a bed and breakfast. And it was kept exactly as it was. Everything from sheet music being on the piano to medications being in the cabinets,
like someone just like got up, put their shoes on, and walked out the door and just
literally.
never came back.
Yep. So it was like a perfectly preserved time capsule into a life from half a century before.
Wow.
As soon as it was purchased and opened up, people talked about hearing someone walking around upstairs, hearing voices in other rooms when no one else was in the home, and smelling the distinctive smell of cigar smoke as if someone had just been smoking in the room, even though obviously no one smokes in there. In one of the rooms, there's a rocking chair that will rock on its own. There's a story from one of the people, like one of the docents that runs the museum. Apparently, there was a couple doing a tour of the house, and they asked him how he got the rocking chair to rock. And of course, he wanted them to explain what they were talking about. And they went upstairs to the room, and the rocking chair was still rocking back and forth. And he explained to them that there's no trick, that it wasn't anything they did, and everyone kind of got freaked out. So he looked at the rocking chair and he said, "Stop it." And it abruptly stopped as if someone had reached out and grabbed it.
They listen.
Apparently they do, but I thought that was a little freaky. There are other paranormal events there. There's lots of moved objects. People will continuously, put something down and it's moved somewhere else. Furniture will move. In particular, that rocking chair is sometimes found in other areas and will rock on its own. Black Hills Paranormal Investigations has been there. They were contacted by the executive director because staff were experiencing a lot of paranormal activity. So they wanted them to come in and kind of see what was going on. And she says that when they would come in during the day, after the staff would leave at night, they'd shut everything down. But when they'd come in every morning, all the lights in the whole place would be on. Even though no one had been in there, everything would be switched on.
I'd be pissed. If ghosts want to play around, fine. You want to move shit, fine. Do not mess with my electric bill. That shit costs money.
Sometimes the manager and other staff will report seeing the shadow of someone walking back and forth in the windows of the upstairs floor, even when the place is empty.
Probably the woman. We'll just call her a lady in white.
So people hear footsteps continuously up and down stairs and around the upstairs. So this Black Hills Paranormal Investigation was there. And while they were downstairs, they heard voices coming from upstairs. So they moved their investigation upstairs and then they heard the conversation continuing downstairs. So they checked with their crew outside to see if there were people maybe standing outside the house having a conversation, but there was no one there. So it was almost as if the activity moved when they did.
Kind of like, oh, you've invaded our private conversation. I guess we'll move.
Exactly. And they have EVPs there where one of their investigators is walking up the stairs and he stops because he thinks he can hear someone walking up behind him. And you can distinctly hear 3 steps being taken when he's not moving and there's no one else there.
Oh.
At one time, they were in the library and they heard what sounded like whistling. So one of their investigators kind of jokingly whistled and it whistled back very clearly and much closer.
Oh, see, that would be like, I'd be like, what?
Right?
What?
They also have an EVP where they're in one of the rooms called the smoking room. And while they're talking, you can clearly hear a small child's voice talking over top of them, asking who they are.
Now, can you go there now?
You
Is this like
can,
open to the public?
it's a museum and you can go there. And I do believe occasionally they have ghost hunts there as well.
Probably like during Halloween or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. One of the other places is called the Bullock Hotel. This was built by a gentleman named Seth Bullock, and he wanted to go to Deadwood to open up a hardware store. Again, that's where the money is selling stuff to the people looking for gold. But he ended up becoming the sheriff, and he was a U.S. Marshal there for a while. During his stay there, there was a cholera outbreak, and a lot of people in town got very, very ill. And so he opened his house up to allow people to bring their children there to try and nurse them to health. And unfortunately,
A lot of children died.
yes,
So I guess we can kind of guess what kind of ghosties are there.
exactly.
That's sad.
Yeah, that the house is filled with small children ghosts. It was also a hotel after he passed away, and a young man hung himself in room 211. And unfortunately, that poor soul can still be seen in that room from time to time. So, room 211 is one of the more haunted ones. They also say that Seth Bullock himself still roams around the building, and he's kind of a prankster. He's more the type of ghost that likes to rearrange furniture until someone tells him to stop it. Like you said, he listens. He does like to rearrange furniture. And also, one time, apparently, he helped a lost little boy. So, one of the more popular stories is that there was a family staying at the Bullock Hotel not too long ago, like in the mid 1900s. They'd lost their young son, and they got the hotel staff involved trying to find him. And they searched the hotel from top to bottom. Finally, defeated, went back to their room to try and see if they could call someone or get more help. They go back to their room, and the little boy's just sitting on the bed, and he's just playing with some toys, happy and contented.
Wait, is the little boy real or a ghost?
Real. He was
Okay,
their real
okay.
son, and he went missing. When they went back to the room, he was just sitting there on the bed, just playing with toys and perfectly content. So they asked him what happened, and he said that he left the room to go get a soda and had gotten lost. And a nice man found him and helped him find his room. And they were like, "Really? What nice man?" He kind of described a guy, but it wasn't until the next morning when they went to check out, he said, "That's the man." And he pointed to a portrait behind the desk of Seth Bullock.
Oh no shit.
No shit.
Well, I've always thought that kids can see things that adults have kind of shut the door to.
Oh, absolutely. Now, the cemetery is also haunted. It's called Mount Moriah Cemetery.
It almost sounds like the whole damn town's haunted.
It pretty much is. This cemetery is divided into multiple sections. So you've got the Potter's Field where there's all like a bunch of unknown graves. There's also a mass grave that is from when a lumber mill burned down while people in the houses nearby were sleeping. It was late at night. So when the lumber mill burned down, it unfortunately killed a bunch of people in their sleep. And so there's also a mass grave of people that were caught in that fire. There's also a section for all the children that died during that cholera and scarlet fever outbreak. Another section where Civil War and Indian War veterans are buried. And again, the famous graves of Wild Bill Hickock and Calamity Jane are there as well.
But the question is the spirits of them there?
Some people say Calamity Jane is there, and they often feel like someone is watching them as they walk through the cemetery. It's a very common feeling. There's orbs everywhere in the cemetery, but mostly it's the children that are there. A common occurrence is to hear children laughing and to hear rustling as if someone's kind of running up to you, but obviously nobody's there. People will see spirits walking around, particularly of small children at night, walking through, or people dressed in older period clothing that aren't there when they try to catch up to them. And also the gates are known to open and close on their own.
I feel like a lot of these places, it seems there's something with Victorian women, especially in the Victorian dresses and ghosties. Are 2/3 of the world's ghosties from the Victorian era?
I think maybe those are the ones that we notice as being out of place. Maybe ghosts that are dressed like us, we don't notice because they just look like a regular person. Just because someone walks down a street and around a corner, you wouldn't automatically assume that's a ghost. But if someone's dressed in an outfit that's out of date and goes around the corner, you might be curious enough to follow them. And then when you see they've disappeared into thin air, that's when you might start to question. But if they're just dressed like you and me, who's gonna know?
Damn it. I'm in Salem, man. Now every time I go to work, I'm going to be looking. I'm like, is that person real? Are they a ghost? Are they real? Are they a ghost? And the way people dress in costumey around here, I'm not going to know who's dressing in period clothing or who is actually from the 1600s here.
I don't know how you go to work today in mundane clothing. If I lived in Salem, I would go to work in the most outrageous outfits. I would dress as my witchiest badass self every fucking day. I don't know how you don't do that.
Well, there are some days where I go to work looking a little more in place than
You do have like
others.
a regular mundane office job, so I guess you
I
can't
do.
really let your witch flag fly.
But funny side note, we're doing this big redesign, and they're like, well, we want to make sure we're being respectful of the witch community. Hey,
Oh,
Chelle, what do you think? And I'm laughing. I'm like, yep, resident office witch here. Let's just talk.
can I just say that warms my little pagan heart? I love that. That they
Yeah,
actually they
well,
want to be respectful to the local pagans. And of course that they reached out to my bestie, Shell, because you the witch.
when you work in a radius near the bewitched statue,
I
there's got to
know.
be some level of respect going
Right.
on.
I just love that you're that witch.
I know, right?
Well, so that's pretty much my story. Haunted Deadwood in South Dakota.
South Dakota, dear Deadwood, smoke a big fat joint. You'll feel better. I swear to God.
And find out what a wampus cat means. Just listen to the episode.
Oh my God. I am gonna go back and listen to the Wampus Cat just because the episode is titled Layla's Birthday Wampus Cat.
I am taking that down. That is the worst idea ever. Whose idea was that anyway? That's
Yours.
awful.
I
Whatever.
just want to say that you yourself, Layla, can take full credit for naming that episode. And I appreciate our nice, wonderful Karen for letting us know that Layla has a dirty ass Wampus cat on her birthday.
I do. That is the funniest thing I have ever freaking heard. All right, fine. I'm leaving the episode. It's fucking hilarious. I cannot wait to go listen
Yay!
to it. Oh my good giddy aunt. That's fantastic.
Will you please remember next week for next week's episode? I just want you to do a quick check in and I want you to let not only myself, but the other listeners know if we had a jump in listens on the Wampus Cat episode.
It's probably going to be me because I'm going to be getting really high and I'm going to be listening and laughing so hard. I'm just going to be repeating it over and over again. I'll let you know.
Please tell your husband what a Wampus Cat really is.
Oh, no, I'm not going to tell him. You can't make me. If you have any other interesting names for a dirty or, not dirty feminine flower, send them in. I'd like to not make that kind of blunder with an episode title ever again.
No, I like that we get the blunder after the episode title's been up there for about 30 weeks.
Oh man. Why didn't anyone tell me this before?
Well, you know what? That's what our listeners are for. Shooting us emails, telling
I
us,
love you guys.
reminding us about your dirty ass Wampus cat.
There's not enough weed, Shell. Not enough weed.
There's not. There's not.
But
So that being said, I think it's time that we both wrap it up, pack another, and get on with next week's show.
absolutely. So please tell a friend, have them tell a friend, make it get all the way to South Dakota. But like, subscribe, pass on the news of the Stoned Witches Hour to everybody, all your favorite cannabis friends, your witchy friends, your paranormal story
Like it
friends.
can't get much funnier than this, guys. Like, I don't know what you're doing when you're listening to this, but you can't tell me that you aren't just busting out laughing because sometimes we're just nuts.
Yeah, and we love hanging out with y'all. Invite your friends, please. And please, please leave a message. We love to hear them. They help the show out. Give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you listen, if you like us, obviously. And send us your emails. Tell us what we say funny. We'll see you next week on the Stoned Witches Hour. Stay high, stay happy.
Stay wampus.
Don't, actually, don't.